Thank you guys for coming out today. We're going to go ahead and get started. For those of you who don't know me, my name's Emily Anding, and here with me,
I'm Catherine Popple.
And together we run Marketing Club, so thank you guys all for being here today. We have about 55 of you guys registered for this event, so awesome, thanks for coming. However, we only have about 25 of you actually registered for Marketing Club. So I sent an email out last week. Be sure to follow up and sign up for Marketing Club. It's just a really nice way to stay involved within the community. You're not required to come to all of the events by any means, but a really nice way to stay involved. Before I invite our awesome panelists up on the stage, I want to take a step back and just do a quick check. How many of you guys have actually registered for an upcoming Career Expo? Show of hands. So everybody on this side of the room, it seems. Okay, and how many of you guys already have applied to jobs, internships or jobs, through one of those websites that are affiliated with a conference? 2, 3. Okay, great, so this event will be very useful for you. And has anybody already begun to book lodging or transport? 2, awesome, 3. Okay, who's terrified for these conferences? Back table only. Okay, so all of you guys are set. Perfect. All right. Well, how we've set this up, we're going to spend about half an hour on the panel. Then we'll take about a 20-minute break for lunch, and then follow up with a mock career expo. And we have all of our EPs in the back to thank for that. So hopefully you'll be able to get your jitters out, understand how to awkwardly stand in line at one of these expos. So feel free to really treat this as if you were at one of these conferences. So without any further ado, I'd like to invite all three of our panelists up to the stage. We have Isaac, Rachel, and Arvin.
Questions?
Yeah. Okie doke. So we're just going to start off, if you guys could give a brief introduction of who you are, where you're coming from, what you were doing before business school, and then what you were doing this summer. So,
okay.
Isaac, you can start.
Thank you. So my name is Isaac Boateng. I'm originally from Ghana. I did my undergrad at the University of Ghana. I've been here for the past approximately 10 years. I claim Northern Virginia as home because I've been here for the most part. Prior to business school, I worked with SunTrust Bank in Ghana. I did a short stint over there. Then I came to the United States. I did a whole lot of stuff from grocery stores, gas station attendants. I did a little job on project management, and then with auto parts, I was with AutoZone. And then I fell out of status with immigration for a while, so I couldn't get a job. So after I was able to get that back on track, I decided to come to business school because nobody wanted to hire me with that gap in my career track. So I came to the Mason School of Business, and I started as a first-year MBA intern, and just a month into that, I got an internship with Intel. So I spent the entire summer in Portland, Oregon with Intel Finance. So that's just a short background.
Awesome. Hi, I'm Rachel Stewart. I'm from New York. Went to NYU for undergrad and worked for interior design and architectural firms in the city doing project management and digital marketing. I decided to come here because I did not have a business degree from NYU and really felt that that would kind of tip the scale. I've always been interested in the retail industry and was happy to build skills there this summer at Gap and at Blue Mercury starting Friday. So very excited.
Thanks. Hi, I'm Arvin. Good to see New York City Breakout Group in here, so give yourselves a good wave. I moved here from London 5 years ago. I was at the University of the Arts London, so with our good friends James Dyson and Alexander McQueen. No one else knows that in New York, so it became tricky to develop myself. I didn't have an American education, so that formed part of the reason to come and do my MBA. I worked within media and entertainment at Time Warner Cable and DirecTV, leading content partnerships, content creation, and sports partnerships, whether it be NFL Sunday Ticket, HBO, WWE, promoting and increasing customer spend. And I spent the summer at Amazon as a senior product manager, directly responsible for a confidential project that I believe is being launched within a year.
Great, thank you guys. So now that you have a bit of these backgrounds, feel free to follow up directly with them should you have any further questions. But as we switch gears to looking specifically at the conferences coming up, can you guys talk a little bit about how you specifically prepared for the conferences, whether that's logistically like transportation or the actual application process for these jobs?
All right, Emily, and I'm going to be very honest with you. So I did not prepare thoroughly for last year's conference. And the reason is this. I convinced myself that I was very good at job search, and for the past couple of years, I've lost jobs a couple of times, and I've been able to kind of get jobs, just to sustain myself for a while. So I thought that if there was one skill that I've mastered over the past couple of years, it was job search. So I told myself I was not going to go. And then we had a forum like this. So I spoke with one of the EPs, very, very important resource that we have as part of this program. And this was what Rick told me last year. Young man, I really, really appreciate your confidence, but National Black, it's a very, very great opportunity. Just go, take a shot at it, and if nothing comes out of it, at least you tried. If you don't, that's like throwing away a bag of opportunity, and I took that. So I think that was just a week to National Black. I went to the website and looked up the companies that were coming. Fortunately enough, there were 2 or 3 that I liked. So I just looked at those companies, looked at the positions they were actually offering or showcasing at National Black, and I didn't do anything else. I just registered online and then decided to go. I gathered a bunch of my colleagues. We drove to Orlando, Florida, which happened to be the location, and we got there. The job fair had started. I thought it was one of the meet and greet, people were not actively there to hire. For some reason, that was my perception about National Black. And then I ran into one of my classmates, and she was like, hey, I got an interview. And I'm like, what? How did you get that? And she was like, well, I had my resume, blah, blah, blah. She had actually prepared thoroughly for that. So I'm like, wait, I'm missing the whole point of this. I quickly went out, printed my resume, and came back. When I came back, I spoke to 3 companies, and all 3 companies gave me an interview the next day. So in the nutshell, I did not prepare. I was a last-minute type of person. I do not endorse that. That's why I told a long story. If I had the chance to do things differently, I think that's another question, right?
Yeah, don't get too far ahead.
All right, I'll pause here.
Okay. Awesome. So I did not go to a big, broad national career fair. Last year, I went to the Retail and Luxury Goods Conference at Harvard. That is not right for everybody, but the moral of the story is do your industry research. If you know what industry you want to be in, find out what conferences there are, what events there are. The Harvard conference was so great because it wasn't just students. It wasn't about getting a job out of it. It was networking with really great people in the industry. I mean, I met executives from places like Cartier and Tiffany's to H-E-B Grocers to consultants from Bain and Accenture, and maintained those relationships. So when it comes to full-time offers, you have a network and you have solid people who know you're interested in the industry. And yeah, so that's why I went there. Getting there, you just book a flight in advance if you know you're going. JetBlue and Delta out of Richmond are the cheapest ways to get to Boston, just for logistics. And yeah, what else?
What about hotels, splitting it with people, logistical, things like that?
I also only went to that one conference because I knew what my budget was, and it didn't include National Black, and that's okay. It meant, going to something second semester, and I didn't have somebody to go with, so I paid for one night in a hotel, did the early morning flight up and the last flight of the night out the next day, and you make it work. So I'm going to Dallas to a retail and tech conference at the end of the month, and I have a similar flight pattern where you just get up and go and you stay until the last minute of the day. If you guys can find roommates, that's awesome. Do it. It saves a lot of money. Airbnb is great if you're a fan. Set price alerts on Kayak. Google Flights is awesome. Yeah, if you need help with travel booking, I'm a fan, so let me know.
Perfect, thank you.
I actually did the opposite of what a lot of you guys mentioned. So I went to the conference already having, even before I set foot, I had 8 interviews set up already. And I used the system in place through National Black. If you have a good resume, you make your profile visible, you'll start to see those requests come in. So before I set foot, I had interviews with Intel, Bayer, Nordstrom, all lined up. That spans pretty much the entire duration of the conference. So I actually never set foot on the conference looking for an interview. And it's key that you get yourself prepared on the digital side as well as in person. Because once you get ready for those interviews, you can see who you're speaking with, find some common bridges, and really harness that interview, because you only get 15 to 20 minutes at most. And they're going to cycle through the best part of 20 to 50 applicants over a single day. So you really have to make yourself stand out. I'm also going to be going to Uncubed in New York if you're tech focused, because that's where my background stems from, and I believe that's in October. But that's also another part of what Rachel was mentioning, where you fund the events that are specific to your interests, because you don't have a lot of time. By December or January, most of the key roles are all wrapped up. So you really got to make the best use of your time and what you're interested in. And for logistics, I actually cheated. So I had a friend of mine whose parents live in Orlando, so we just crashed at their 2-bedroom beach house, which was quite nice. But there was 8 of us, so it was a festive. And enjoy it. I think you guys are lucky because we had an accounting exam on the day we came back, so we couldn't really celebrate too much. But if you don't have that, then you should be really living up in New Orleans.
Perfect, thank you all. So now we've talked a little bit about logistics and getting there, what you did prior to, but now let's focus on what happened when you were actually at any of these conferences. So how did you actually navigate that process? Nerves, I'd love for you guys to speak to that point. There are a lot of people at these conferences, and personally I found that very overwhelming. And then talk a little bit about how you navigated the interview process, the networking receptions, the cold calling to tables that these guys are going to be practicing here in a little bit.
I'm an introvert. I'm not a huge fan of speaking up. I was never somebody that asked a lot of questions in class. Throw that out the window. If you don't speak up, they don't know you're in the room. So in every panel, at the end, I raised my hand, and if I was called on, I had an opportunity to ask a question, to interact with executives about things that I'm passionate about and ask them their thought process and just make that mark. After a panel, you go and you stay behind, you introduce yourself, and you say thank you for your time. Manners go so far in these events because so many people just don't even think the, hi, how are you? I'm Rachel Stewart. How are you doing today? Thank you for your time. Manners. It's amazing how much of a difference that makes. And then networking receptions. The networking reception at the Harvard conference was the first thing that they did, which is terrifying if you go by yourself and you don't know anybody. So I actually made friends with an analytics student at MIT because I had a blister and he had a Band-Aid. So he's my friend now. But it's funny how things happen and you just break out of your shell. We had a luncheon, which was awesome. And it was really interesting to see who stepped up and who was engaged. And at the end, you find out, oh, I was sitting next to a director from Women's Wear Daily. Just speak up, be engaged. That's why you're there. You're not there to sit on the sidelines. You're there to get involved. So practice like this is key, and just get comfortable. If you're talking about something you know it. So go out there and talk about it.
So what I say, very key is to be yourself, be authentic. You've got to bear in mind, you're going to be wearing maybe one of 100 of the same types of suit that these recruiters will see. So you really have to figure out what distinguishes you. How can you be personable and approachable? For my Nordstrom interview, I spent the first 15 minutes speaking with how you would pair certain colors with shirts. And that was pretty much the core basis of a 20-minute interview. The final 5 minutes was, oh, let me buy you dinner tonight. So you have to understand who you're speaking with and how you can apply your own personality to that conversation. Because they're going to see the same pitch everyone has practiced and prepared. There is nothing new or unique about those pitches. They've come across as boring. They're going to switch off after 10 seconds, and they'll just pass you along. And I would also say, be very considerate of who you target and how you target them. I gave the advice yesterday to a gentleman. Start your first interview with someone you are a safe bet with. Get your confidence high. So if you're in media, go find a media company. They know they're going to be interested in you, so you're already at a good level. And then you can go and tackle the bigger challenges that lie ahead.
I think Arvin and Rachel have said what I had to say. What I want to add to that is, in addition to be yourself, know what you want. A lot of recruiters actually like students who come up to them and say, hey, I want to talk to you, for instance, I want to talk to USAA about your finance opportunities. That's what worked for me. I went to Intel and asked them, what are you recruiting for? And they were like, finance. I'm like, great, I'm looking for a finance internship opportunity. I went to USAA, it was the same. So I went there knowing exactly what I wanted, and that makes you pitching, it makes you much more comfortable, and it makes the flow much more natural. Again, one thing is authentic connections, and I'll share this story. When you get to the conference, it's a huge place, a lot of people, about over 10,000, less, I don't know, but it's a lot more people, students with MBAs like yourself and myself, and it might be confusing. You might not know where to go. One thing that worked for me was I saw somebody who looked like me, and I thought I could take a shot at this guy. And when I got there, we started talking. I realized he had worked at a previous place that I had also worked. So that made the conversation much more comfortable. He was like, hey, what did you do? I was in this department, I was in this building, and we kicked it off. He tossed me to the next person who fortunately was also from my mother's hometown, way back in Africa. So that made it very, I'm not saying everybody will get that, but authentic connections and authentic networking. So that actually helps. There was another guy I just pitched the fact that I've worked in a bank. He was in a banking setting, and then we kick it off. So look for opportunities like that. If you speak to one person and it doesn't work out, don't get discouraged. One thing about this whole process is you're trying to find a company that you fit in, and they're also trying to look for talent that will fit in their culture. It's a win-win or a lose-lose, whichever way you want to look at it. So if you don't fit in one place, don't get worked up on that. Just keep it moving, but make sure you strike genuine connection and take it off from there.
Great, thank you guys. And I want to be sure we have about 10 minutes here to move through some Q&A directly from you guys. So last question, I'd love to hear about what surprised you most about the conferences and what you would do differently looking back on this process.
So I am doing something different this year, which is going to an industry conference that does on-site hiring for students. I'm really excited to do that. A little nervous. Guess I'll shake that off and dive into it. And I wanted to get started earlier. I might still go to National Black this year, but I'm making that decision based upon how a retail conference goes. I've already identified opportunities that I would look at there. Just keep your options open, cast a wide net, and rank things. Prioritize what's going to be important to you. For me, I'm going to Dallas to look at 12 companies, whereas at National Black, I'd be looking at 2. So do the math, find out what's important for you specifically. Don't just do something because your friends are doing it. I think it's something that's really important.
Yeah, 2 things. So one, LinkedIn is your good friend here. So once you get your LinkedIn Premium from Phil, you can target specific graduate recruiters. You can actually set up time with them ahead of the conference. So you can already eliminate pretty much half of your opposition. So that's how I set up my discussions with Comcast when I went to National back in Orlando. And secondly, what I would do differently is I would actually turn down some interviews because I was just taking them because I wanted them, as opposed to thinking, well, actually, would I accept an offer? I probably wouldn't from half the companies I spoke with. So using your time wisely, I would say, is something you have to really think about.
I will start with what I would do different. I will not be a last-minute person. So already I have started going to the website. Well, I've been on the website and I've registered. So I was an early bird this year. Have your resumes ready, please. We have an awesome CMC team here, please. Have them look over your resume for you. Scheme it. If you have a lot of pages, try to scheme it into one. I think they do a very good job, and I have to thank Phil. I worked with him last year earlier on, and then Patrice took over. Incredible people. Let them scheme through it. They have been there, they've done this over and over, and they know how to get it crisp. It's a way to tell the employers that, you know, regardless of how wide your career might have spanned, you are able to probably crispen it up to a one-pager. If it's more than one page and you think things in there are relevant, that's fine. But have that ready. Again, know what you want and just go specifically for that. If there are 2 or 3 companies that you really, really want, it's okay. Last year I went for one company, I think Mercedes Financing. They had absolutely no opening, but it was as a result of me seeing them and wanting to go that led me to my internship with Intel, which was very great. So sync with the CMC team, have your resume ready, and know exactly what you want and go for it.
That was really helpful. Thank you, guys.
And just to clarify, 1-page resumes. Anything longer, you're doing it wrong.
Mm-hmm. So please join me in thanking all of our panelists. It's been incredibly helpful. So we have about 10 minutes left. Phil's going to walk around with the microphone. Please feel free to ask anything to our panelists while we have them in the room.
Thank you for your time, guys. I'm wondering, when you go to these conferences and you're talking to the different companies, how can you tell that company's going to be a good fit for you while you're at the conference?
I mean, honestly, sometimes some people exude company culture on the recruiting side. It's easier to tell with some people than others. If that culture and fit is a high priority for you, then ask about it. Ask what it's like working there. Ask what the environment is like. I tend to steer clear of some of the work-life balance specific questions because I want to err on the side of a workhorse who's very dedicated. I don't want to seem like somebody who's going to check out at 4:45 every day. So be careful in how you ask those questions. But if that's really important to you, bring it up. Ask what living in that city is like. Ask what working for that company living in that city is like. There are ways to ask it where it's more holistic. Yeah.
So coming from Amazon is a different type of culture, and that's something that they would probably not expect you to ask because they would assume that you've done your homework and you already know about it. And you've got to think, how can I make the best use of this person's time? So and culture is probably correct in some roles, and some companies, they think you could be asking better questions, such as, we're doing this launch in Richmond, maybe you should ask about that. And you'll have maybe 5 to 10 recruiters per company. So it could be the case, and especially for international students where you will have more difficult conversations, culture and fit might not be the one you want. So I would say look at what the company's doing, who's going to be there, or what types of press they're getting, and then start digging deeper into that. You become more memorable because you've got to bear in mind a lot of people will ask the exact same question, but the ones who stand out are the ones who made me think, and I have to double check and think, I need to get back to you. It requires me to follow up and basically put you in touch with an additional person.
I have to go to class because we have a guest speaker, but I want to say a couple things before I leave. Thank you all for coming and being engaged. It's really great to see everybody. really wanting to step up, if you have questions, I've posted on your class Facebook page. My email is not hard to find. Reach out and we'll get in touch. Questions about what to wear to conferences, I just want to address this. Look sharp, but be comfortable. Nobody cares how nice your shoes are if you can't walk well in them, okay? If you don't like super tailored things, don't wear them because you'll be uncomfortable all day. Seriously, like, dress in what you're comfortable in, but look polished. There is a balance. And
I want to second what Rachel just said. Very important, wear practical shoes. And I also have to head out, but thank you guys for coming.
thanks, guys.
Well, huge thanks to Rachel. Thanks for being here. All right, what other questions do we have? Yeah, in the back, Megan. Can you say that one more time?
Yeah. Can you walk through how you guys did your pitches? The initial one, like the 30-second, you got that recruiter's attention. Like, did you come up with something clever? Did you like compliment them? How did you go about that?
So again, I didn't really do too much of the floor walk, but what I did do is I paid specific attention to who they were speaking with before and basic qualifying signals as to their levels of interest. I would, if they suffered in a previous interview from the person standing up, I would actually relate to that. And I would say, oh, it must be difficult standing up from 9 to 5. You want to be personable and authentic, similar to what Isaac had said. And I'll let you finish because I didn't really do too much else.
Very good. So I did not practice and perfect a scripted, what's it called, pitch. No. First thing I do, I just walk to a booth and I ask them what they're actually there for. So some companies came there specifically for marketing MBA, some finance, etc., etc. So when I ask them of what they're there for and they tell me, I just try to let them know that I'm in the market or I'm looking for a finance role internship. Now, once I set the motion rolling, I naturally tell them my background, which is relevant to the position I'm looking for, and I let it flow naturally. It's probably the same introduction that I did here. I just tell you what I've done in the past and see how well that fits into what you're looking for. Because at the end of the day, like I said, it's not just about you looking for talent. It's also about me trying to find the right place to fit. So I kind of agree with what Alvin noted earlier on, the fact that scripted pitches are kind of like overused right now. It's like a cliche. So I highly recommend you staying authentic. That's my response to that.
Great, thank you guys.
Yeah, I'll just add to that because oftentimes students will come to our office asking, okay, what do I need to put in my pitch? And almost feel compelled to just write it down on a piece of paper and then go in front of your bathroom mirror and start practicing your pitch, right? And what happens is it comes across very authentic and undermines the very thing that you're trying to do, and that's connect to the person that's standing in front of you. So I think both of you have great advice and a little bit different, and that is you're kind of shooting from the hip, Isaac, but allowing for your natural abilities to come through to connect with people. And Arvin, what's great about his advice is that you got to know what these companies' pain points are. You have to know what projects, what initiatives they have going on, what's going on in the industry, because then you can start asking questions, more questions you ask of them that are targeted. Then they're getting the sense, okay, this person isn't just here standing in front of me because I'm the next person in line, but they've actually done their homework and really care about the business's problems. And so authenticity, if you had to break it down in one word, is probably the word to use when thinking about interacting with these recruiters at the conferences.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We have time for a couple more questions before we break for lunch. You guys all feel really prepared. This is good. Yeah, Cedric? Carrying the team back there.
So sometimes I'm not as, I think some of your suggestions are for I'm not as quick-witted as some people. Do you have any suggestions for those kind of people who can't come up on something smart or clever on the fly to pitch to a company?
So when you're pitching, and at Amazon, I spoke to a bunch of my peers at Wharton, and they actually helped me with some good advice. You don't need a script, but you need to hit key pillars of your pitch. So you need to tell them where you're going, why you're doing an MBA, what your background is, and why you would either love to work for the company or specific role they're hiring for. So if you can't think on the fly, at least you have those to fall back on. And understand, I suppose, the reaction that you're getting from the recruiter. If it's negative, you kind of have to cut your losses and just say it's a learning lesson and move on to another company.
So let's be honest here. I mean, the reason why we have pitches in the first place is to help people who are not confident or who do not know exactly what to say to have something to say. The fact that you have a scripted pitch in the first place, there's nothing wrong with it, so long as it's authentic and it helps bring who you are out and it clearly communicates what you want and where you intend to go. It sends that message clearly across. So if that's what you're comfortable with, do that, but make sure, the caveat is make sure it comes out naturally. It doesn't look like it's an over-rehearsed cliche. That is my simple response to that.
I think that's a great question, and just another point to add to that, authenticity is huge here. A recruiter doesn't want to speak to someone that they feel like is trying to just play the game, even though when you go to these conferences, you very much are playing the game. So I think there is this strange balance that you have to find that works for you specifically. One last question. Yeah, here on the left. Sorry guys, we're filming it since folks can't be here and it's linked up directly to that camera, so.
All good? All right, yeah, Christian Carter, thank you both for coming and giving us some awesome advice. All three of you did a great job of speaking to the lead up to the conference. Can you speak a little bit about the follow-up and what you do after you've made the initial connection?
Great question.
Awesome. So for me, it was a straight shot. Intel told me that we will get back with you after a week or two. And a week or two, I was at Chipotle and I had a phone call and say, hey, we're giving you an offer. So I didn't have to do a lot of follow-ups. I had another offer with USAA. They had a sequence. It was a sequential process. So right after National Black, they send you a case. You have to prepare for the case. And you have to go to San Antonio, Texas, their main campus, and you compete with other MBAs from across the country, and then they get to handpick their choice. So that was what happened with me. Intel was a straight shot. They called me with an offer, gave me time to accept because I had a competing offer. I wanted to go to San Antonio, Texas in November to see what USAA also had in stock. I didn't have to say yes to them immediately. They gave me a couple of months. I waited till I was done with the interview with USAA, and then I finally made a choice for Intel. So back to your question, I didn't have to follow up a lot. It's not the case for everybody, but they rather reach out to me as opposed to me trying to frantically reaching out to find out what happened. So that's my...
And just on that note, so when you speak to them at the conference, every company will have some type of evening function, an after party or whatnot. That is a great venue for you to unwind and to get the other side of them when they're away from the floor, and also to remind them of your interest. Every company will have that, so please ask, what are you doing later, or what events are you hosting later? Because that's where a lot of the deals are really made.
Well, thank you both so much for being here. We're going to take about a 15-minute break. We have pizza outside for you guys, and then we'll kick off the next part of the panel. So again, thank you guys, and enjoy a nice break.
Hold on just one moment. I just want to point out a couple things. We will have GCMC staff at many of these conferences there to support you. So at National Black, we'll have staff. At Prospanica, we will have staff. We will have staff at Net Impact. We'll have staff at the National Association of Women MBAs. So we'll be there to support you. We'll be set up, and so that in between employers, you need maybe some some quick advice will be there for you. Also, we do offer a modest travel stipend to help offset the cost of your travel related to the conferences. It's $300. Just keep your receipts. I'll send an email out probably later today with the details. Just keep your receipts. You bring them into the office and we'll reimburse you. We also have a technology stipend up to $150 if you want to upgrade your LinkedIn profile or if you have any technical certifications that you want to get. So they're modest, but hopefully it helps out and you take advantage of it. So have some lunch, and then Patrice is going to talk about how we're going to organize the exercise after lunch.